In Chapter 8, we add the half-call class to a couple of the div tags. So we have a div tag with some content beneath it. We have the H1 content and then some paragraphs, and then that tag is closed. And then we have a second div tag with some content beneath that. So if we would preview this in a browser, just as is, we would see basically the two columns. Now, this is the two columns on the page with the class half-call in place. So the half-call class is responsible for setting the divs into two separate columns. And if we look at the styles page, we can see .half-call has our text align left, some padding, a float left, and a width value. So because the width is 400 pixels, the block of text is only going to expand up to 400 pixels wide with, of course, some padding. And because the style is floating left, when we have two half-call classes in a row, the second one will float up so that it's side by side with the previous half-call. Now, if I take away the class equals half-call portion of the divs, so if I just highlight, and I have to be a little bit careful there, I don't want to get the bracket in. So I'll highlight this part. I'm using my, let me do that again and just to say it, I'm using the shift key with the left arrow to highlight this keystroke by keystroke. And then I'll press delete on my keypad and delete one more time. And the same thing for the very first one, class equals half-call. Okay. Now, when I do not assign the class equals half-call, I'll save my changes. So here I'm just going to see one single long, basically, kind of column of text. And the definition that half-call provides of being 400 pixels wide and floating left is not in place. So there's just something, it's important to remember that defining your style is the first part of designing your page, but then applying your style is equally as important. So this was the div tag, the first one that we added the class equals half-call to, right beneath the header. And then at the start of the next div tag, so I can either, I can click it in my code or on the design side, I need to add the other class equals half-call. So I'm going to do this in two different ways. On the first one, I'll go straight into the code. And right there after the V in div, I'll press spacebar, and then I'll just start to type class. CL and class appears in my code hint. Double click that, and then I'll choose half-call. That's the class I want to apply. When my div closes, the instance of using half-call also closes. In my second div, which is this one, I'll go ahead and choose it on the design side. It's a little hard to choose sometimes, but see if I can get in there. This is why I don't usually do it on the design side. Okay, there we go. So I've picked up essentially the second div. And with that selected, I'll go ahead here in the properties and choose class half-call. And I scroll down a little bit so it's not visible now, but here it is. So now I have that class equals half-call. If I edit undo, and let me scroll up so it's visible one more time. So there's my div, and I'll choose class half-call. And again, okay, joke's on me. And again, class equals half-call is what we see in place. So just two different ways to add that class to the div class, to the div tag. So again, if I preview back in the browser again, I will see the two half columns show up on the page, being styled by the CSS, which is being applied in the HTML code to the div tag.